We want to thank you really for taking some of today for joining us here for this marker unveiling. It's actually our second marker for the Revolutionary War series of the Lafayette Trail. We launched right at the end of the bicentennial celebration. We launched a new campaign called Lafayette 250, which is going to focus increasingly over the next few years on what Lafayette did during the American Revolution and his lifelong service to American freedom. And this is our second marker in such effort in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This first one being the one we placed in Yorktown earlier. It was in November of 2025. So we're very happy that the marker here was allowed to be erected here at Sleepy Hole Park. It is going to celebrate for generations to come a very important connection, which is one of the first things that Lafayette ever did when he came down south after his first months and years in the United States, or the trying to be United States of America. And it follows basically some of the pivotal moments that took place in the American Revolution, especially up north. It follows, obviously, the Saratoga campaign and all these things. It follows the very famous treason of Benedict Arnold. And so just a little bit of context for you all. Starting in the spring of 1781, Lafayette finally gets what he really craved, which is a little desire of action and a little bit of risk here in his life. And he's able to go down to Virginia and get command of some troops. And is going to lead for many months, leading to the siege of Yorktown, a campaign of, you could call it harassment, to basically never engage fully the British and risk losing everything, but hit and run to just poke them around and maintain the Commonwealth as a competitive battleground for eventually, when the conditions will be gathered, indeed, the combined alliance of the French and Americans are going to fall down over here in Virginia and make a decisive strike and win the war. But this is all because of Lafayette and his ability to navigate an understanding of the culture of the New World, and also his military skills, never to engage fully the British and losing everything. The need to have constant grit in your militia and in your soldiers so that they stay engaged and they want to risk everything to achieve freedom. And this is really our first marker that celebrates such an ideal, because it's our, as I said, first one for the Virginia campaign. So I want to thank a few folks before I go on with the rest of my remarks here, but we'll start with the Suffolk tourism folks, Teresa and Kevin, that have already worked with us. I think I said 80 markers in a pandemic ago, I think it was, right? Something like that in 2020.
We don't remember that year.
We don't remember that year.
But we have a marker.
You do. So we worked with them in 2020 for the bicentennial 1824 rather 20 marker that we placed at the tourism headquarters at the visitor center. So thank you for this first one. And we also worked with them this time, and the parks agency here that did such a great job at putting together the sign. So just thank you for the continued support. I don't think you ever said no to anything we wanted to do in Suffolk. So I want to say thank you for that. Kevin as well, I want to thank, because you also were a connecting, liaison for us and for the Pomeroy Foundation, our great partner, the Wombles that do a great job for Lafayette and Suffolk. Thank you guys for being here. Also, the Virginia, they're in the program. We have the Great Bridge chapter, Sons of the American Revolution. We have the Virginia Daughters of the American Revolution as well that are joining us to do reflaying. And also, I want to say thank you to our great partners up in New York State that are the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. So they've been partners of ours for 7 years now. Together, we have donated over 215 markers of the tour series across 25 states, which is amazing. And we have still dozens that are happening. In fact, I'm doing 12 states in April alone. This is my fourth one. And we have now done 13 markers for the Revolutionary War series. It's picking up speed. But this is this interesting year where we start off our semi-quincentennial efforts, but also try to continue and finish off the farewell tour for the retardataires, we say in French, meaning the ones that are late or that are late to the game, I think is a good translation. So altogether, that's 225 markers, which is a stunning effort. Every one of our Lafayette Trail, Lafayette 250 events, they're absolutely free and open to the public. You don't need a seat at the table to join. There's no admission fee. We want to make sure that people understand the message of Lafayette, and we want to make sure it is as accessible as can be to everyone. And we think what's the word? Removing the financial obstacle is a great way to make Lafayette's messaging as democratic as possible. We also have resources online that are accessible to everyone. Also, follow the Frenchman in the series that we have. We have done Lafayette: A Hero's Return during the bicentennial. Was the only PBS documentary dedicated to Lafayette that was done during the anniversary. We did that also free and open to the public on your computer, whether you live here in France or in Vermont or some Washington State or Hawaii. It's all free. So we want to thank the Pomeroy Foundation for that support tremendously. I will now read a letter from the Pomeroy Foundation. They're not able to join us. Congratulations from all of us at the William G. Pomeroy Foundation on the dedication of your Lafayette Trail historical marker. We send our warm greetings from Syracuse, New York, as you commemorate the legacy of Revolutionary War hero General Lafayette. We wish we could be with you for this special occasion, but we can't. At the Pomeroy Foundation, a core part of our mission is helping communities commemorate and celebrate local history by providing fully funded grants for historical markers nationwide. Established in 2005 by entrepreneur and philanthropist Bill Pomeroy, the foundation is the nation's leading funder of markers and has awarded more than 3,000 marker grants across 49 states and Washington, D.C. When Bill Pomeroy established the foundation, he made funding markers a priority. After learning that New York State stopped funding its marker program in the late 1930s, which left communities to raise funds on their own, Bill created the Pomeroy Foundation's New York Marker Program. This first grant program became the springboard for more programs, partnerships, and initiatives, including funding markers on the Lafayette Trail and establishing National Historic Marker Weekend. Every Pomeroy marker funded tells a story, honors a legacy, and strengthens the fabric of a community. What truly sets Pomeroy markers apart is our unwavering commitment to historical accuracy through the rigorous vetting of primary sources. This commitment is our gold standard. That commitment to history is reflected through our mission. In celebration of the bicentennial of the farewell tour and the semi-quincentennial of Lafayette's participation to the American Revolution, we have funded more than 200 markers in 25 states and Washington, D.C. We have also collaborated with the Lafayette Trail on this new marker series, recognizing the General's Revolutionary War Service, which now counts over 13 recipients across many states as well. Through this work, we are reminded that Lafayette's legacy touches countless communities across the nation. We commend your efforts to bring greater attention to Lafayette's impact on American history and the enduring friendship between France and the United States. Thank you to Lafayette Trail founder and president Julien Hichet, the city of Suffolk, Suffolk Visitor Center, Suffolk Tourism, and the Suffolk Parks and Recreation, and all of those involved with this special event. We know this marker will ensure the General's contributions to our nation's founding will endure for future generations. With gratitude and best wishes, congratulations from Bill Pomeroy and all of us at the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. Thank you, Bill Pomeroy, founder and trustee of the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. So thank you, Bill. So I don't want to go into all the details of the history of what Lafayette did here. I'm sure some other speakers later on are going to do that probably. So let's avoid bis repetita. And I will go ahead now and introduce our next speaker, which is Teresa Earls, the Tourism Development Manager.
Julian stole a lot of my thunder by thanking all the important people. But first of all, thank you to Julian. He really has been a wonderful asset to Suffolk and a good resource for our history. And I would also be remiss if I didn't give a huge thanks to the Daughters of the American Revolution Constantia chapter, because they have been the most amazing partners that we could ever imagine having with especially with the Suffolk 250 and VA 250. We really couldn't do it without you all, so thank you very much. And I'm sure the Sons of the American Revolution are doing a lot too, but the daughters are really the ones who have our back. Also, I have a very small staff. You know Kevin Sari, and where is Danielle hiding?
There she is.
We are 3 full-time tourism development folks, and that's it. And we happen to run the visitor center, the farmers market, the Seaboard Station Railroad Museum, our tour program, and anything else you imagine. So without their hard work and dedication, nothing would ever happen in the tourism realm of Suffolk. And I was thinking about all the wonderful things coming up here when we were talking about doing the marker, and I said, I'll be brief, which, if you know me, is not usually possible. I'm not known for my brevity. However, I was thinking I'm not the biggest historian, but I definitely feel like I'm a people person. And thinking about how fortunate we are to be here, we're under a shelter. We have cookies and tea and all this wonderful thing. And we're like moments and steps away from where people bring their families for picnics and birthday parties and all kinds of festivals. This is where we do our drive-through Christmas lights. And so much different. This was such a different landscape, a little over 200 years ago. It's completely different. So the lives that we live now are such a privilege to us, and we tend to forget that not that long ago, there was war going on. And I think this is just a good reminder that not only is it important today that we're unveiling this marker, but what's important is all the people that are going to come and read this marker for, not just in a couple of weeks, not for the 250, but long beyond and beyond my life and probably all of ours, that marker will still remain and will remind people that Suffolk has a very rich past, and it's a part of America's history, not just our city, not just our region. It's really a part of the history of America. And hopefully that will serve as a wonderful component for generations to come. And I will say thank you to the Suffolk Parks and Recreation Department, because we just basically told them we need to put a marker in here and this is where it goes. And they were okay with it. And they not only did that, they installed it themselves. So, they did the heavy lifting, so to speak. Truly.
Literally. Yeah.
Literally. And they're always very accommodating to us, and we appreciate that. And I'm sure I'm forgetting lots of other people, but I just want to say thank you all. And I'm going to turn it over because, see, that's technically brief, right? Frank Womble, the Great Bridge chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, not to be outshone by the Daughters of the American Revolution. Frank and Gloria have really been my go-to authority on Lafayette. Sorry, Julie. But we've been working together now for years and putting together programs, and I've learned so much, and I was able to help my daughter all the way through fourth grade history. And a lot of it was thanks to these two folks. But I would love for you to come and say a few words about Lafayette and not everything you know, because we will be here till July.
Yeah.
You know a lot. So please, thank you for joining us, and if you would care to share a few words, and then you get to introduce your lovely wife.
I shall. Thank you, Teresa. We stand at a historic spot. In February of 1781, George Washington ordered Lafayette here to Virginia in response to Benedict Arnold's raids against Patriot settlements and the burning of Richmond in January. Washington's instructions to him were quite clear. First, take command of forces in Virginia. Secondly, act as your own judgment and the circumstances would direct. And Washington, infuriated by Arnold's treachery and treason, said, if Benedict Arnold should fall into your hands, you will execute him in the most summary way. Sleepy Hole is quiet and peaceful today, but in 1781 it was a busy place. Arnold crossed at the nearby Nansemond River ferry site en route to Portsmouth in January while returning from his raid on Richmond. Cornwallis crossed in July. Lafayette and Baron von Steuben likely crossed here as well. We are only a few miles from downtown Suffolk, a key 18th century shipbuilding and supply center. The town was burned during a British raid in May 1779 and was still in ruins when Lafayette arrived here at Brigadier General Peter Muhlenberg's camp in March 1781. This marked the true beginning of organized American resistance in Virginia. Lafayette immediately recognized how difficult his task would be. The available forces were small, and there was very little ammunition. Taking some of Muhlenberg's men, Lafayette conducted a reconnaissance of Arnold's defensive position in nearby Portsmouth and engaged in a small skirmish at Scotch Creek. He quickly realized, however, that Arnold's position was much too strong to attack, and the plan to capture him was abandoned. This meeting here set the stage for the broader Virginia campaign. 2 months later, General Charles Cornwallis arrived in Petersburg and assumed command of British forces in Virginia. Cornwallis aggressively pursued Lafayette that summer, boasting, quote, "The boy cannot escape me." Lafayette had a healthy respect for his opponent, noting in a letter, and I quote, "This devil Cornwallis is much wiser than the other generals with whom I have dealt. He inspires me with a sincere fear, and his name has greatly troubled my sleep." Lafayette knew that he could not defeat British regulars in open battle with his small force. He wrote to George Washington that he was, quote, "not strong enough even to get beaten." Instead, he adopted a careful strategy of mobility, intelligence gathering, and calculated harassment, a cat-and-mouse campaign to delay the British and prevent them from moving inland and attacking Richmond a second time. Muhlenberg's local knowledge and militia network were critical to this approach. Lafayette and Muhlenberg, together with Baron von Steuben and Brigadier General Anthony Wayne, effectively conducted operations here in Virginia. Lafayette's ability to avoid destruction while maintaining pressure on Cornwallis ultimately contributed to the British decision to occupy and fortify Yorktown and Gloucester Point in August. This proved disastrous when American and French land and naval forces converged there in September and besieged Cornwallis, trapping him. Lafayette's arrival here at Sleepy Hole was a decisive turning point in the war. It transformed a disjointed defense into a unified campaign, linking Virginia's defense to the larger strategy and laid the groundwork for the operations that culminated in the decisive Franco-American victory at Yorktown on October the 19th, 1781. Viva Lafayette, and be with the Franco-American Alliance. At this time, I'd like to introduce my wife, Gloria Wumble. She is the state chair of the Franco-American Memorial Committee for Virginia and a member of Constantia Chapter, National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. She will be bringing words of remembrance.
To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. On January 21st, 1776, at the Lutheran Church in Woodstock, Virginia, then Pastor Muhlenberg read this passage from Ecclesiastes 3. When he came to verse 8, a time of war and a time of peace, he is said to have looked up and declared, in the language of the Holy Writ, there is time for all things. There is a time to preach and a time to fight, and now is the time to fight. Supposedly, he swept off his clerical robe and revealed his colonel's uniform beneath. In 1781, General Muhlenberg and the militiamen he was commanding at this camp had known war for over 5 years. Many had lost their homes, and their wives and families had suffered greatly. They would train here, and over the next 7 months, they would contribute to the fight under General Lafayette's Light Division that led to the defeat of the British at the Battle of Yorktown. Let us take a moment to remember both the French and American patriots who fought and died for the freedoms we enjoy today. And we're going to be doing that over at the marker.
Kevin, if you would like to do the honors, you've been so kind and very helpful that I would love for you to do it. You're here. So to be very quick, if you've seen any of our 1824, 1825 markers, the logo on top is blue. This one is red because it's a different series. It's the American Revolution. That's why, guess what? It says at the bottom, the American Revolution. The frame is the same. It's red, white, and blue. Bleu, blanc, rouge for me. Red, white, and blue for you. And it speaks to the role that Lafayette played in our two revolutions. We wanted to make that design also tell a story, and it does. And then as far as the language goes, we don't call him the Marquis de Lafayette, even though many Americans did at the time and still do today for historical reasons, because they wanted a dignifying endorsement of the revolution from a French nobleman. But we call him General Lafayette because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be remembered for serving in the American army in service of freedom. So under the title General Lafayette, then you have the text. And every single line of this text is based on a primary source document, which usually for the tour is a newspaper. But from the Revolutionary War time period, the newspapers' printing offices were, let's just say, a little bit in difficult times at times, like threatened by British and stuff like that. So the sources are a little different. We're looking more at letters that they sent to each other that are having the date on it, as well as where they were writing to, where they were writing from. So that usually gives us indication about where they were and a little bit of context about the historical facts that were happening at that time. So in this case, we give context that Lafayette arrived at General Muhlenberg's militia camp at Sleepy Hole by March 20, because none of the letters allow us to say exactly which day it was. So we get away with a twist of your beautiful English language by saying by March 20th. And we want to make sure that people know it is not to have the major clash of titans of the whole year. It is to scout, as was pointed out, for the British as a strategic vision that he was implementing across the Commonwealth to never engage, but instead gather intelligence. So this is what this marker is about. At the bottom, we have the credit of our partner, the William G. Pomeroy Foundation. The credit, this marker was approved in 2026, and it is the number 10 on our series. And the marker is two-sided in case any of the trees behind me are interested as well. But that's the sign, and as was pointed out, it is here for decades. It shouldn't demand anything for 50 years or so. By the time I do my farewell tour, it should still be up. And I just think it's going to be a beautiful resource to educate people that are going to go by. Tonight or tomorrow, we'll add the marker on our interactive national map, and we will promote this extensively.
Okay, so I will now ask Director Maureen Holbert to come forward and pay her respects on behalf of District 1 of the Virginia Daughters of the American Revolution. Next, I will ask Regent Karen Weaver Hedrick to pay her respects on behalf of the Constantia chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Excellent.
And finally, I will ask Garrett Hedrick to pay his respects on behalf of the Great Bridge chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution.